This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the sunrise safari here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. We did want to give you a view of the sunrise, but sadly it's already high up in the sky, and when we stare at it, well, I now see stars. My name is Lauren, and I do have OD on camera today, and we are going to keep bumbling, and you all know why. It's very light already. It's a beautiful day. Look at the blue sky. It's absolutely glorious. We've not got our rain roof on, which is going to be... I thought Wendy wasn't going to start there, which is going to make a big difference to us. Checking Danes, Hyena Dane, looking for Kalamba. It's going to make a big difference. We're free of the roof, but the sun is just already extremely high in the sky. So we're going to bumble to the Hyena Dane. Many of you are asking about Corky, many of you are asking about Ribbon. The only way we're going to find them is A, at a kill site, or B, at the Dane. So we've got to keep trying. But just a reminder to you all, this safari is completely live and interactive, so you can talk to us. You send in your comments or questions or topics or even jokes if it gets a bit quiet out here using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, or if you're watching on the website, as long as you've registered, you can submit your questions there. I'm on Philemon's Dip, so I'm just checking very carefully. But as I check, kids, if you are watching, it's a Sunday after all, please do talk to us. You guys are the future, and you send in your questions via email. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildair.tv. Hyena tracks everywhere. I've changed my route a bit. I will jump onto Twin Dams, but actually Philemon's Dip's a really good road to check. So I've switched it up a little bit, spiced it up a little bit from my normal Twin Dams road. Anna Marie, good morning, good morning. You're hoping for some cool Sunday sightings. Me too. I really want to start to jump on to figure out where all the lions are moving. I did get a notification that the lioness was heading towards Triple M, but that was 10 o'clock last night. But she was on the Arathusa side, so I'll get an update on that, and then just to try and figure out if we can scratch around for leopards. Really, it's becoming very difficult. We got lucky with Langa. Tessa did mention there was not much meat left, but I will skip on to the Eastern Channel at some point and see what they're all talking about down there. It's such a beautiful morning. These kind of mornings are definitely my favorite. So as I bumble off into the sun, let's take a look at the weather.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to see a bushbuck this morning and to be spending a little bit of time with him right next to the drainage line that leads into Vuyatela Dam. And this golden light is making him look really beautiful the way it's bouncing off of his fur this morning. It looks like he's having a very good time. He's just browsing along the edge of the drainage line. He's actually up on a termite mound, believe it or not. And he is having a pretty good time in a little bit of light. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide this morning on safari. Davi's behind the camera. And our plan for the day, we're going to be spending a little bit of time here along the drainage lines, looking for any signs of leopards, and just enjoying the day as it comes. We're going to be bumbling around, checking some of the water holes, and seeing what we can find. Hopefully we find some really nice small things for you today as well. So Davi actually pulled off an incredible spot by finding this male this morning. He's kind of up behind that bush just as the light was catching him on the termite mound, and he's been moving around a little bit, but you'll see that he's on his own, and this is very normal for a bushbuck. They are quite solitary animals, and we don't often get to spend that much time with them. They tend to be pretty shy, and that's because they're solitary. They can't afford the luxury of being very relaxed like impalas can be, because they don't have all the eyes and ears. And so he's on his own. Occasionally you might find a few females together if they've got lambs in particular, but this is pretty normal for this male. We haven't had a full view of his body yet, mostly just the top of his back and his head as he's been moving behind the bush. But he does look particularly relaxed this morning while he's feeding. He did take a good few minutes to kind of gather information when we got here, and he stared at us for a bit and sniffed around a bit, and then decided we weren't a threat and went back to feeding. But you can see he is looking alert, his ears are up. He is watching as he's feeding, and he will take pauses in between chewing to sniff as well. Megan, I'm so happy that you like bushbuck. I really enjoy them as well. All of the spiral-horned antelopes are within my favorite group of animals. This is the smallest of the three, so spiral-horned, these, nyalas and kudus. And I think they really are quite beautiful. Where I grew up, there's a lot of bushbuck in the Cape, well, Eastern Cape. In the Albany thicket, we get a lot of bushbuck, and they are so beautiful. Very, very strange animal, because you've kind of come across them and they tend to be quite shy, and then if something happens, this massive bark comes out from behind the bush, and you get quite a fright thinking there's a massive Doberman behind there, but it's actually the bushbuck, and they're just so quiet and petite all the time until there's a threat. He has decided to hide from us this morning, and that's totally fine. I think he's going to have a very good day feeding along this drainage line. He'll probably stick to the shade as well, as much as he can. It's already quite hot this morning, but I think we're in for a pretty good day in general. Clear skies for the first time in a while, I believe. So definitely worthwhile spending the day doing as much as we can and looking for as much as we can. My plan is actually to go and have a look if there's anything at the dam. Maybe we'll find some interesting birds there. And I'm actually going towards one of my favorite roads, which is, well, we're on the link road at the moment, but towards Mvubu Road, because it goes through the drainage line where there's a lot of tamboti thickets, and I'm an absolute sucker for tamboti thickets, so I really do think it's going to be a pretty good day when you get to start the day with something unusual that we don't get to see often, and on a very pretty road. While I carry on down towards the dam, see what I can find, let's head over to JP to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're following a lioness that is referred to as Lagerfur for those that are into the naming of animals. Well, let's see what she's getting up to. We've been very fortunate to actually spend some good quality time with her this morning, and what we did find is a position was given away while she was hunting impala by some vivid monkeys, which alerted us to her presence. There was also some francolins that was alarm calling. All of these little sounds and learning all of these little sounds become really helpful in actually locating predators. I just want to see where she is now. Quite often at this time of the year, with the vegetation being so thick, it makes it incredibly difficult to follow animals. She's going to come right out in front of the vehicle in a moment. She's right over here. In the meanwhile, before she pops out, I'll introduce myself in a moment, but let's just focus on the because we otherwise going to lose her. You can see those little black spots like markings behind the ears, and the tail generally acts as following mechanisms. Well, she was advertising quite loudly this morning by roaring. Quite often we find that lionesses on their own, as well as lionesses in groups where there is no cubs, will actually be more likely to advertise, as if they don't want to attract any wanted attention towards her. In her case, date might be that big male lion that we actually saw yesterday. I'm just going to drive over and see if we can follow her. She's now on charge. Just go a little bit forward. It's going to see if I can pop in somewhere over here. She's following this fence line that's over here.
Okay, so we're just about to arrive at the dam. We've just gone through my favorite little drainage line here. And it's really, really beautiful, especially this time of the morning when there's a lot of golden light coming through. The bush just looks, I think, the best it'll look all day. Between the golden light in the morning and the golden light in the afternoon, just before sunset, it really just makes everything look so different. It catches the light on all the little flower parts of the grasses. And all the bush just looks all the different shades of green. Nice clear sky, you can see. Lots and lots of greenery. I think you can get some of the fluorescences started. So have a look in this little gap of golden light. How that light is just catching the top part of the grass, and that's what we call the flower of the grass. It's not a true flower like you could imagine a beautiful flower with petals. It's called a fluorescence. And they're actually they've got a bit of dew on them, it looks like, as well. But it looks so white in this light, and it just catches everything really beautifully. And you can compare that to just behind where there isn't any light. It looks so much darker. So this time of the morning, if you can get something moving through that grass, it makes for absolutely wonderful photographic opportunities. And I can actually see a hint of an elephant, which is making me very, very happy. I'm going to move a little bit forward. Let's see if we can get a better view. Oh, a little bit of a gap. Happy there, Darby. We'll try and move around again just now, but it looks like it's one elephant on its own. Not that unusual. In the shape of the head, I'd say it's a male. I think enjoying some of the marula fruits that might have fallen out of this tree above it. So I'm going to stick around a little bit and just see what this elephant does. I'm hoping it might go down to the dam just now. And hopefully we can get it drinking.
We have reached our first dam of the morning. So we're just going to jump onto that dam wall and give you some glorious views. Everything's warming up, everything's coming alive, getting mobile, coming out to sunbathe. But I think the nicer views are from the dam wall. The dam wall is also higher up, so it gives you quite a nice view of everything going around. Beautiful. Just going to sit here for a moment or two and just enjoy the scenery around the dam. Isn't it just so beautiful and peaceful? Could sit here all day.
But so the light on the side of this elephant is just absolutely beautiful at the moment. You can see how the shadow is being cast over its head, and it's actually accentuating some of the features, which is quite special. You don't often get the golden light on an elephant in that position. So you can really see a little bit of a dent in the temples. You can see the roundness on the top of the head. And all of those little kind of waves you can see at the bottom of the ear, the creases. And then, of course, all of the creases in its side as well. And it's actually slowly coming closer, so we just wanted to give it a minute and see if it does actually come out closer to us. Otherwise, we'll go around. But it looks like it's a young-ish male. It's on his own, and he's just moving along, feeding at the bottom of the marula tree. Okay, now he's just hiding his head, so now I think I might actually have to move. Oh no, just teasing. So it's quite a big-bodied elephant, not the biggest that I've seen, but compared to tusk size, I'd say it's pretty much the norm for that tusk size, if it's going to be a nice big bull. I love that light on the little creases of his trunk. That is really stunning. Just at the top there, from below his eye. Okay, so with an elephant like this, we haven't actually had a chance to have a look at the full body, so it's quite long grass. It's also slightly downhill from us. We're on a bit of a slope. But from the shape of the head, from the fact that it's alone, I would say that it's a male. Very, very full on the top of his head. Isabella, you actually can't tell the age from an elephant from its tusks anymore. There used to be a general rule of thumb with this, but that was when most elephants had very large tusks. But because of poaching for ivory, there are hardly any tuskers left. And on top of that, a lot of elephants we're seeing at the moment, they're adapting to have tusks that are either much smaller or no tusks at all. And that's because the only elephants that have survived poaching are elephants that don't have ivory to poach. And so those elephants are the ones that pass on genes, which means the genes that are being passed on from generation to generation, the tusks are getting smaller and smaller, and some of them are completely absent. All right, I'm going to reposition here because now it's hiding from us. So there used to be a general rule of thumb with elephants if they had a certain size tusk, but we actually can't use that anymore. Now you'd have to use overall body size. The best way to tell those actually from the teeth. How's that, Darby? So now you'd have to have a look at the teeth quite in depth, because elephants have those 6 sets of teeth that they go through, one every 10 years or so. And as they get older, more and more teeth emerge in the jaw. You can use that as the best indication. Obviously, that being said, you can't just walk up to this elephant, lift up his trunk and have a look in his mouth. So that's much more accurate if you're looking at an elephant's skull, or if you've had to dart an elephant for whatever reason, and then you can really study it. From this, you'd have to guess from his size, and I would say he's probably around 20 years old. He's not young enough to have just left the herd. He's not big enough to have started breeding either. So he's a bit in between. They would start mating at about 25 years old as a male. And before that, they kind of get kicked out of the herd anywhere between 12 and 15 years old. So they still look like teenagers in size then. So I'd say he's somewhere in between, and not unusual at all that he's on his own. When he would have been kicked out of that herd, he knows that he can survive on his own. He's too big for lions to really target. And so his predators are almost non-existent. I wouldn't say non-existent, but he knows to be wary of humans, and he knows to be wary of lions. He won't tolerate them, but he doesn't have to have a herd to survive. And so if he finds other males, he might join them. If he doesn't, that's okay. His life will consist of moving around and feeding and drinking, until he can find bulls to fight. If he does find females in estrus, and when he gets a bit larger, he might be able to win those fights and then actually start breeding within a herd. Actually quite interesting, the shadow that marula is casting over him is kind of splitting him in half, and you can see how much the light really makes a difference to what you're able to see on this elephant. You can see the detail of his tusk and his eye very clearly, but the rest of him looks like he's been stripped in a paint jar somewhere. Okay, so I'll see if we can try and get a slightly different view of him. Have a nice decent look at him. Hopefully he does go down to the dam just now, but he looks quite relaxed underneath this marula tree. I think just taking advantage of a little bit of shade as the sun's coming up. And while I reposition a little, we'll send you over to JP.
Welcome back to Eco Training Islands. Unfortunately, we lost our lioness as she crossed over into one of the neighboring properties where we couldn't access. So we could still hear her a few minutes ago while she was still calling, while myself and BK was positioned over here and enjoying our sunrise. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got BK. Unfortunately now the clouds have started coming in, and it seems if we're in for a little bit of a change of weather. There was no rain that was really predicted, but it does look pretty dark to the south of us. And this time of the year, this is quite typical for us to receive quite a large amount of rain. Within the next few months, that will start diminishing, and here from late April, May, it's unlikely that we will receive any rain further for the rest of the year. I was also amazed at how the grasses has grown, and one of the things that I have noticed about the grasses which are surrounding us is that a lot of them is both subclimax as well as climax grass community grasses, which is actually a very good indicator of the health of the ecosystem. And these are also generally very palatable grasses, which aids animals. We find that in the later part of winter, these grasses or early parts of winter, these grasses start becoming yellow in color, and they often become lignified and less palatable. And this is why so many of the animals are just using the opportunity to feed on as much of these grasses as they can at the moment. I'm just going to be dead quiet. You actually might hear our lioness still calling in the background in the distance. She's just stopped calling, and we think that she might actually start calling at a much earlier age than they would normally start trying to attract the attention of males. And it's most likely that she's going into estrus much earlier than that we would expect she would have done for the first time. And hopefully very soon she is mated, and hopefully we soon have a lot of more little cubs in the area. However, as a lone lioness, it's going to be a lot of hard work for her to raise those youngs. She does not have a benefit of a remainder of a group where she can leave cubs with, or where there's a potential of other females providing additional protection and safety in numbers, as was she and both of the cubs on her own. However, it's not impossible, and chances that she's going to do that successfully is very good, because normally we see that in the first parts of a cub's life, the females actually do move away from the group, and they go and hide their cubs until they're a certain age when they can actually introduce them into the pride, where other lions won't be able to harm them any longer. Generally with a lot of young cubs of different ages, and there's a lot of rough play, and quite often the older cubs will not deliberately, but by default bully and try and dominate the smaller cubs, or play with them and in the process actually injure them. Well, we're going to go and move off and go and see what we can go and find for the morning. Let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
So we are still sitting with this lovely young bull, and he seems to be enjoying all of the fallen marulas. He's picking them up in between the grass and putting them straight into his mouth. You can actually see that his legs and his trunk are still wet, so he had a drink earlier this morning. And so he might actually stick around here, maybe in the drainage line through the day, and come back to the waterhole as it gets hotter a bit later on. But if you listen carefully, you can actually hear him chewing. Let's have a listen for a little bit. You might even hear birds in the background as well. He's actually stopped chewing for a little bit. He seems to be packing things into his mouth and then waiting until he's got a mouthful, and then he starts chewing. But even when his tail hits his side, it makes quite a noise, and his feet through the grass. So he's definitely chosen quite a beautiful spot to spend his morning between the drainage line and the dam. There are so many birds around, and it's nice and green and lush. So he's got more than enough to keep him going throughout the whole day if he wanted to stay here. I'd love it to be so close to him while he's feeding. So one thing I am noticing about this elephant is that his tusks are actually already starting to crack a little bit. They're catching the light really beautifully. You can see how white and clean they look. But if you look closely, you can see all the dark little streaks on them. And this is normal because it's enamel, it's a tooth. And it's exposed to the elements. He uses it as a tool. He sharpens them by using them as tools, not intentionally, but they do get chipped and sharpened. But you can see quite a lot of the dark marks on there where the dirt is starting to stick into the kind of cracks of the enamel. So he's definitely been using his tusks quite a bit. And when you look at them close up like this, you can see how dirty they actually are, as white as they look from a distance in comparison to his body. You can see they are holding quite a lot of dirt. They'll also get caked in mud when he has a mud bath. He's definitely had one of those, possibly yesterday, because he has got quite a lot of dry mud caked. But you can imagine how elephants could break their tusks. If he's got all those cracks in his tusks and he's a bit rough with it, he might even build up a cavity in that tusk, a hole in his tooth basically. And then if he fights with it or he knocks it against a tree, he might actually break the tusk right off, especially when he's older. Quite an incredible adaptation to have your teeth adapted into tusks. But he's actually just enjoying this patch underneath this marula. He hasn't moved far at all, and I think it's because a lot of the marula fruits have started dropping. And so he's got this position where he's close to the water, he's got marula fruits, there's going to be shade later, more than enough food around, and he really won't need to move very far at all. I think he will probably go down to the dam when it gets hotter. He's going to mud bath a bit. He's actually still got some dry mud caked in his ears, on top of his head, all over. So it just shows how important that is to an elephant. Willow, yes, it's actually not unheard of for female elephants to get kicked out. It has happened. However, they are a matriarchal society, so females are very particular about staying with their herds. And so normally what would happen is a female would stay with her mother's herd. They might break up into smaller herds at some point, but then usually the smaller families stay together within the herd. So mothers and daughters would stay together and sisters might split. But it actually will just depend on the area that you're in. However, if there is an extreme circumstance, you might find a female that gets kicked out. Usually that is not the case, but it definitely has happened. It's just much more unlikely, whereas males are almost guaranteed to be kicked out of a herd very, very quickly. Very quickly. You can see his eyelashes quite beautifully from here, and that clean hole right through his ear. So he's definitely already had quite a life. You can imagine if you've got these big, thin ears and you're walking through all of the brush. There's a lot of thorn trees around here. And so it doesn't take too much to get a thorn piercing right through that ear. Jenny, yes, this is a very, very gorgeous elephant. It's actually quite nice to be so close to such a young bull, especially on his own, because a lot of the time bulls kind of from 15 to around this age or a little bit older, you'll find them in small bachelor herds, and he is a very calm young bull on his own, and he's happy to just carry on feeding. And being so close, I think we're probably 5 or 6 meters from him at this point. We're quite close to him. You can really hear everything that he's doing, which is quite spectacular actually. You can hear his tail as it's brushing off his thighs. You can hear him chewing. You can hear his feet as they're going through the grass. And what I'm thinking he'll actually do is once he's had a bit of a mud bath, he's going to come and rub against the marilla tree. You can actually see on the marilla tree where elephants have been rubbing. He actually rubbed his ear on it just now while we were sitting here. And it's kind of just on the underside where the tree curves. You can see there's a bit of discoloration. And it's a perfect curve for an elephant, whether they want to scratch the back or the sides or behind the ears. Any tree like this is a tool. The rough bark will help to scratch off that mud that he's caked himself in. Maybe not in the hard to reach places, so you can see inside of his ear he's still got some caked mud because that's quite difficult to scratch off. But he'll use it as a tool, definitely. Once he's had a bit of a mud bath, he gets it into all of those cracks, which cools him down. His skin will get much, much cooler, and then once it's dried, he'll come and rub it all off. And that'll pull off any parasites, and I think it's just a good feeling. It's like scratching an itch. I'm quite enjoying the shadow that his ear is casting on his body. Mateo, it actually can differ regionally on how often a male elephant goes into must. It also depends on age. So when an elephant is younger, they might go to must a little bit more when they're very old. The primary bull is 35 and 40 maximum. After that, it starts slowing down. But the average is probably about once a year. However, it can happen as often as every 6 months to every 3 months, depending on the elephant. So it's quite a strange process. His eye is actually watering a bit. Can you see that, Davy? Coming just out the front of his eye, he's got a little bit of a dribble, and it's actually coming down one of the little creases below his eye. If he turns into the sun, I'm hoping you'll be able to see it. So his eye is watering a bit. And that's pretty normal. It's like ours. It has to stay wet to keep the eye functioning. But also any little bits of dust or anything that get in there, which the eyelashes help protect against, but obviously can't get everything. His eye will water to just kind of get rid of the dust. Hello, boy. Good morning. Can you imagine being born Can you imagine being born with a massive trunk like that off of your face? Look at all those creases in it for all the muscles. So elephants actually have really, really good eyesight. So I think a lot of people think that because they're so big, they rely on their other senses. They actually have very good eyesight. And he knows we're here. Obviously, he can see us, he can smell us, he can hear us. Hearing is his most important sense at this point, but he does have very, very good eyesight. So elephants will notice movements from quite far away, the smallest movements, and they also pick up on the changes in light. If something is reflecting light, that'll catch an elephant's attention very quickly. So as much as he is looking down, and his eyes look quite small compared to the rest of his face, he has got exceptionally good eyesight. And as much as we might not be able to feel it, he's very possibly picking up information from other elephants in the area at this point. Michelle, thank you so much. It is wonderful to start the drive with an elephant like this. We actually did have a brief view of an elephant earlier on the other side of the drainage line in the dam, but it wasn't very relaxed and really not that far from here. So it's nice to see one so close up, and he is really relaxed. He's feeding right next to us and not bothered by us at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if him and that other elephant are communicating. I think he's very, very likely picking up vibrations through the soles of his feet. He can hear much better than we can as well. So he can hear the other elephants wherever they are around here. And he does look very nice and relaxed this morning. He's actually so close that I can see all of the little hairs around the edges of his tusks under his mouth. And those eyelashes, of course. I've always been attracted to eyelashes on an animal. Could you hear him breathing out there? That was quite spectacular. He actually almost breathes out every time he throws a marula into his mouth.
Good morning, all stations.
Your tusks are quite dirty. Especially towards the lip line, his tusks are very, very dirty. They must be quite difficult to clean. They do occasionally use their trunks to kind of wipe on the tusks. But it is fairly difficult to give them a good clean if you're out here. So he doesn't have to have them sparkly clean as long as he can make sure he's not doing anything that's going to add to any cavities. And he'll be happy. You can actually hear how his trunk is moving through the tree there, through the leaves. Now for me, with an elephant like this that is moving around and fairly active, it would be very interesting to sit and watch what he does the whole day, how far he moves, whether he feeds on particular plants or not. Because elephants do actually have, they do actually have favorites. They will pick particular plants that they like the taste of. One of the favorites is elephant's pudding. That's a good one. But they will have favorites individually and depending on the area that they're in. So it would be very interesting to see where he goes, if he interacts with any other elephants, what he eats, how far he decides to move. Because especially young males like this, you know, all elephants are pretty much nomadic. They don't have a home range because they're too large. They can't afford it. They wouldn't be able to hold a territory. They need to move freely wherever there is resource available. So whether they're needing more water or more food. So he would be nomadic just like all the other elephants. But being on his own instead of with a herd, he would kind of just bounce around wherever he can find things until he finds a herd if he wants to follow them. So it would be very interesting to see where he decides to go. But I think I'm actually going to leave him. He's looking very relaxed. I'm going to carry on down towards the next drainage line and see what else we can find. Thank you, big boy.
We're just bumbling. It's very important for me in the morning to keep moving, and sometimes what's really nice to do, now this is not an attractive road, it's an access road with a power line, sometimes it's nice just to, because we've got height, to actually just use your binos or the camera and search the road. I've actually found a leopard this way. It's really easy to spot elephants this way, because many animals love to also use the road. So if you just gain a bit of height, you can see the entire length of the road. Well, not entire length, but you can see far. And if something's walking on the road, you're going to pick it up. Nothing so far, I'm afraid. But you see what I mean? You can really see that the birds are really calling now, and it's so beautiful. So let's just take a moment to appreciate this landscape and the beauty of the scene in front of us. Isn't it just stunning? It's already getting very hot, which might make it a bit tricky to find mobile animals.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Bridlands. We just had a hyena that came to where the carcass of a dead hyena cub was from yesterday. At first it was actually rolling in the hyena's carcass and then getting the scent on it. It then picked up the carcass and started moving off onto it and started feeding on it. It's unfortunately now moved off into a thicker area and we will not be able to actually follow it. It's just actually fascinating to see how hyenas will actually feed on their own kind. We also do find that behavior with a number of different predators too, and we also quite often will find that even females will eat their own young, especially when it does come to lions, as well as I have heard of records of where leopards have done that too. When it does come to hyenas, it's also interesting, one of the reasons why it's believed that the females are larger than the males, and that is to prevent that the males will actually cannibalize their own young. I just want to see if I can actually spot it. I'm just rising up a little bit. See if I can spot anything with binoculars and determine if it's worthwhile following. I don't think it is worthwhile following. I can just see a lot of branches and things that's in front of us. It's not a great idea to drive over these. Quite often these leadwoods can create, stumps can create some serious damage to your vehicle. But when it does come to hyenas, it's actually not surprising at all that they will have actually come to focus on the carcass and come and feed in it. And we do find that they're very effective with cleaning up dead carcasses in the veld, and in the same process they prevent the spreading of disease at the same time. We also find that other species that do this for us is also vultures, which also plays an important role in actually breaking down dead animal material and preventing the outbreak from disease. In the case of vultures, they're very effective in terms of spotting carcasses. They can spot a carcass from some 2 kilometers probably away, or they can actually see a 6 centimeter diameter object 1 kilometer away. And in the case of hyenas, they actually use their very well developed senses of smell to actually locate carcasses. That's interesting as well. When it's cool, you'll actually more often are likely to smell those carcasses compared to warm days, because the air is stable, it hangs and lingers lower down. I think PK has just managed to find a glimpse of our hyena again. Let's see. Okay, we're just going to try and go a little bit forward and Bika is just going to guide me into where he wants to be. Okay, we're just going to stay over here as our hyena is actually not coming towards us. I don't think there was a lot to eat actually on that carcass, because when I did look at it, it was actually laced with maggots and flies, and it's amazing how effective maggots are too with breaking down carcasses. If you do look at the body plan of the hyena, you'll notice that it's got a very sloping back and heavy forequarters, and that's specifically designed for picking up those large pieces of carcasses and then move off. Good morning, Grayson. We're just going to quickly reposition and then I'm going to answer your question. I just want to see if we can keep up with our hyena before it disappears. So Grayson, to answer your question with hyena, if it's going to a den, it's unlikely that it's going to a den. We now noticed in the last few days that the hyena den has actually been inactive. Every time that we do come over here, I think there's some form of politics playing out between them and maybe a rival clan or within the clan members themselves at the moment. I'm just going to position right over here. Our hyena is coming back to where the remainder of that carcass was. I'm busy sniffing around there. Maybe he's going to roll in it again. There's definitely not much to eat, but when hyenas do almost eat everything except for fur, they've also got amazingly strong digestive systems, which even enables them to break down enamel. The only thing that they can't break down is keratin, which is hooves and hair, basically. Let's see what our hyena is going to get up to. Well, I was just mentioning earlier about that sloped forequarters, making it effective for picking up heavy pieces of meat and then moving away from a carcass and avoiding competition in that way with other predators, but also at the same time that sloping back and long forequarters also enables it to run at a very energy efficient way. We also see a very similar body plan when it comes to wildebeest, which enables them to run at an energy efficient manner. Let's just follow it a little bit longer, see if we can get another glimpse on it and see where it's actually going. Very lucky to actually get a short little video clip of that behavior of where it was rolling in the carcass, and definitely going to post that one as an interesting animal behavior. There we go. So good morning, Aidan. Yes, I'm definitely enjoying a lot of luck with predators this morning. And it's just the luck of a draw, and sometimes we only have ability to focus on the small stuff, and that is what we get to interpret. And that's why it's so important for guides to learn more about the smaller components of an ecosystem. Those days that they don't find the big stuff. And there's drives that I've been out there, but the only animal I saw in a whole drive in one of Kruger National Park's prime areas was a single scrub hare. And then there's days that you're out there where you're lucky, where you probably see the big five twice within less than 30 minutes. Unfortunately, the hyena has now moved off, and I won't be able to follow into this area as it's very uneven, as well as there's a lot of dead leadwood stumps over there. Well, while we are so lucky already, let's keep our fingers crossed that the luck will continue coming our way, and let's go and see what else we can go and find. Once again, while we move on, let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
We popped into Chitwa, but Langa is no longer there and it was very quiet. So we've come back into Djuma and I'm covered in spider webs. And I'm on the hunt for an orb web spider. That's what I'm going to focus on today. So OD, I'll need your help. Normally it's actually 99% never the spider that you see, because it's hard to pick out a spider on the landscape. It is normally the golden hue of the web that you see, and they're so large that it really stands out, constantly glints in the sun, and it can look different throughout the day because obviously the sun moves, but it's still very, very yellow. And normally that's what you see for the golden orb webs, at least, rather than actually just saying, there's a spider. Den wasn't active. I might check again later if we're in that sort of area, but otherwise I think we got very lucky with our past few sightings. I really think Heart's Cub's a girl. I could also, it's very early days, so I'm not conclusively saying, but I think it's a girl. I just need to get a good look at ribbons. I'm not entirely sure it's a male and female. I know many people say that, but I want a good look. But we're on Lightwood, and this is fast becoming one of my favorite roads. I'm not actually having amazing sightings on it, but it is beautiful. It's just stunning to drive. Momo, did you get that one? What was it?
Excited for
The
the naming of the cats.
naming? Oh, I haven't even thought about that. I probably will not be around for that, but
Molly, how are you? I'm fine.
yes, we need to wait until they get a little bit older. Definitely need to wait a while for these ones. They're still very young, but hopefully they end up with lovely names. Aha! I see you, I see you. So, Owen, do you see it's sort of 2:30 on that grass? Oh, never mind. We shall come back to that. I just spotted a little elegant grasshopper.
Okay, so I've just arrived on one of my absolute favorite roads, Nyala Road South, and I'm driving along the edge of the drainage line, and there are just so many birds here this morning compared to yesterday. It's just an activity. There's a buzz around the drainage line between all the birds and insects. So I wanted to just sit here for a little bit and listen, because there are some beautiful fork-tailed drongos calling. A lot of different birds around here. Let's have a listen for a little bit and just take in some of those sounds this morning. There's definitely a lot of activity. With this lack of cloud cover today, I think everybody's just out in force. And particularly the birds and insects. It's one of my favorite things to do is sit and listen next to the drainage lines in particular, because this is the hub of life down here. Definitely one of those mornings where you just want to kind of appreciate everything coming out. I think with the strange weather that we've been having the last while, I mean, even when I was here 2 weeks ago, there was strange weather. And it's definitely, it's been the rare occasion that you find a beautiful morning where there's hardly any clouds, there's no wind. And it's just stunning golden light coming through the drainage lines and birds everywhere. So I've just been appreciating that a little bit here on Nyala Road South. I'm right next to the drainage line looking down into it. You can see a lot of spider webs that are glinting in the sun. A lot of really beautiful insects and spiders and all sorts of things out this morning. Have a look at that web, how it's catching the light. Absolutely unreal. And it just seems to be the perfect morning for all things today. I think it's an elephant birding and insecting day today, and I have no complaints at all about that. So it seems like there's actually a lot of fork-tailed drongos in particular in this drainage line, but I've heard francolins, I've heard spurfowls, I heard a tawny-flanked prinia, one of my favorites, black-headed orioles. There's just a variety of birds out today. And this is why I like coming down to the drainage lines. Not only is it a great place to look for things like elephants getting out of the heat, also fantastic for looking for hyenas, leopards, even lions. So very, very good all round. It is so beautiful for insects and birds in particular. Because there are so many tall trees along the banks, because there's a lot of shrubbery, you can see the spiders have definitely been using it very well with their webs. I think it's just been, you know, it's the perfect place to be. Jamie, you're 8 years old and you want to know if spider webs are strong enough to withstand the rain. Yes, they absolutely are. Spider webs or spider silk is incredibly strong. It can withstand very many things. I don't know if you've ever walked into a spider web, but it's not as though it breaks around you. It takes quite a bit of force to break through a spider's web, to break through that silk. And as you're walking and it has kind of hooked on you, you'll still feel it. It's actually quite tight on your skin, and to get it off can be quite something. So out here, remember, they've got to withstand birds, they've got to withstand animals walking through, and although it won't it won't stay intact with the bird flying through it. It will definitely not break as easily as you'd think. And spiders have many different types of silk that they can spin, and all of it is incredibly, incredibly strong. So a lot of our things that we use, a lot of our structures can be based on the strength and the structure of spider webs. So they can definitely withstand the rain. I think if there's maybe a massive hailstorm, that might be a different story. It might poke a few holes in the web. But because spiders are so quick at spinning, they can actually spin a whole new web very quickly if they need to. So they're very adaptable. But spider silk is very strong. I think I walked through every spider's web accidentally this morning on my way to get some coffee before we came out. It was one of those mornings where the spider webs were just out to get me. I can even see spider webs on the car. So it just shows you the change in weather as well means that there is more small creature activity too. There were a lot more spider webs this morning than there were yesterday morning. It's a little bit of a change in weather. But I think I'm going to carry on down towards the bottom of this drainage line. It is so beautiful being able to sit here and listen, but I do want to see if there's anything else out there. And I think as we keep going, we've got more and more chance of finding more things, so we might as well get going. Right, while I carry on down the edge of this drainage line looking for anything wonderful to show you, let's head over to JP.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We quickly went to go and pop in at one of the dams, but there might be some animal activity over there. But what we did find is a number of different southern foam nest frog nests, and we thought we might actually just share a close-up of you of it. A few days ago, we were actually very lucky. We actually did manage to actually find one of these frogs sitting up in a tree. For those viewers that managed to get a clip of that or a glimpse of it, you would have noticed that that frog was incredibly pale at that color. And the reason is they actually manage their own temperatures by doing that, by either becoming dark or pale in color. If they need to increase their body temperature, then they'll become darker in color. If they need to deflect heat, then they'll become lighter in color. So what happens normally is that the male and females will climb up here. The female will be attended by a number of different males that will try and mate with her, and she releases this jelly mass that she churns up with her hind legs in creating this meringue-like structure. And what will happen is that the eggs are laid inside there, and then as the males are on top of her, the eggs will become fertilized. And several days later, the tadpoles will start developing inside this foam nest from the eggs, and we'll see once it softens at the bottom, these tadpoles will then fall straight into the water. This nest that we see over here is fairly low down. I think one of the highest nests I've probably seen in the tree was up to some 18 meters in height. I'm still curious if those tadpoles can actually survive that little fall. I'm just a little bit distracted over here at the moment with a number of different movements of things in the background. I suppose branches breaking. I might just need to actually move away from where we are. I think there's elephants that are coming our way, and we just want to quickly move to an area where we're a little bit safer. It's always good to keep your ears open while you're actually busy doing things in the bush, because animals can so quickly creep up onto you, especially elephants. They do come down towards the water. They also walk incredibly softly, and you actually only things that you do hear as the branches that break and some of the feeding sounds and sometimes some of the belly sounds that they produce. I'm just going to stand over here and just look at what's going on. Do you think our elephant is somewhere over here? Well, we're going to look for our elephant in a vehicle. Let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
Good news! My first fresh female leopard tracks in days. We tried to frame it up for you, but you know, there's no point in just talking about a track. There's a mobile leopard. And let me tell you, it's on Drakensberg going south. And the reason I'm so excited is because I have got into a bit of a Tlalamba loop. And I've been checking Drakensberg every single day. And there's a point on the road where the sand is the softest, because that's when you're going to pick out even the lightest of daintiest track. And I pull over to the side. And I've been pulling over at the same part every single day. Not a track. Today, track. So that's how I know they're fresh, because I did that yesterday. I did this road yesterday, so sometime between the end of drive and this morning, sometime during the night, a leopard, female leopard, I think Tlalamba, but technically we shouldn't really say that, has moved. So this has now given me an indication of where she's moving, where she's heading, and this really, really helps. Having a blank canvas is... Mike and Fanotti also came out yesterday to look for her. They're still around, even though there's no guests, and no tracks, nothing. Which means she's either not on the property or she's in a block on a kill. I don't know which one, but we finally found tracks. So whether we find a leopard, it's a different story, but she's here. I'm sure it's Tlalamba. That's also naughty. So that's also the benefit of driving a road repetitively. It can make you go a bit insane, but it also means you know that road, like absolutely every single track that's on that road. So the minute there's a fresh track, you can spot it instantly. So there are benefits to doing that. But this just helps me. She could also just be on territorial patrol. She could be miles away by now. But it just, at least we know she's on the property. They are creatures of habit. They will use den sites that their mother used when they were a cub. They will take the same roads on their territorial patrol. Naturally, over time it shifts, but they are creatures of habit. Owen, can you translate? Carter, how can we tell whose tracks? Carter, we can. That's why I'm saying I should not be saying that it's Tlalamba. We can't, really. The other day, I think, male leopard tracks. This is Shasha. No, you don't know it was Marie's. So we really shouldn't. And I don't know it's Tlalamba, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, this was a den site used by the Nkuhuma, so I'm just checking as I go. I know it's a female, so you just think to yourself what area of the reserve you're in. Now, I'm on Drakensberg, or I was, I'm now on Battalier, but Shadulu would never use this road. You would never find Shadulu on it. It's very unlikely that you would find Tandy on it these days. This used to be Tandy's realm. But you've got to start to use your knowledge, and that's why being here a long time and knowing where the animals move helps you. So I would, through a process of elimination, assume that it's Tlalamba. She's very much using this road, this slice of the reserve. But to answer your question, Carter, I don't actually conclusively know it's her, if that makes sense. Oh, I see you, baby girl. I see your tracks. I see your tracks. We're coming. I'm so happy right now. Smell fresh elephant as well. So yes, we shouldn't say that. We speculate, but many times been wrong. Did not catch that name at all, but you're saying, fingers crossed we find this leopard. I know, I'm not banking on it, to be honest. It helps. It really, really helps. For days and days, Mike was out yesterday. Lauren, I can't see any in Gonzo. Can't see any tracks. Fanotti tried. She's been on a kill. And if she killed something substantial, I mean, when Ali and I were here, was a kudu that we believe Kalamba took down. Unbelievable. So if she's been on something substantial and large, it's going to last her a really long time. I've actually passed the place that I wanted to check, so I'm going to turn around. I'm too busy talking. But yes, I hope we find this leopard too. Oh, no, our tracks are still going. Okay, I'm going to keep following these tracks for now, and hopefully we find this leopard.
So I've actually crossed over the drainage line now, and I'm driving down Twin Dams Road, so I'm headed towards the area of Twin Dams, but purely because it's such a beautiful drainage line to drive along. You just never know what you're going to find. I'm taking it really slow. We've seen a glimpse of the slender mongoose and elephant tracks. Lots of birds. And we're just kind of putting along, checking to see what else we can find. So the drainage line is on my left at the moment. I crossed over. And we're going to see what happens as we keep going. It is such a beautiful area to be in. A lot of diversity in terms of plants as well. This area we're starting to get a little bit more buffalo thorn, a little bit more silver cluster leaf. A lot of bush willows. So the territory is changing a bit. There have been quite a lot of hyena tracks out and about again this morning. So I definitely think the Juma clan is becoming much more active than we used to, or than we have been used to anyway, a little while. But I'm hoping I don't lose signal. I'm about to go through a little bit of a dip. But there definitely have been a lot more insects out this morning, which makes me quite happy. A little bit of extra heat and everybody's awake. We'll see what happens. We're about to get towards Twin Dams, so you never know. Alright. Let us see what else we can find. I am noticing a lot more flowers this morning as well. I think with the overcast weather, even things like lion's eyes are kind of closed up. So there is a lot more life this morning in general. We were actually just chatting, Darby and I, about the insects being a lot less active this year. There seems to be a lot less of them. And that's affecting a lot of things. I haven't seen nearly as many rollers as you normally would, especially European rollers. Also things like the bee eaters. Normally, because they're migratory species, they are here in the hundreds. And I haven't seen many bee eaters at all. And their main focus would be insects. That's what they feed on. So it really does affect a lot of different things. It seems like the birds and the elephants are the most active today. However, some insects migrate. Probably the most well-known insect migration is the African monarch butterfly. So some of them do migrate. Most of the species that we would find here actually won't. They'll be local, they'll be resident, and they'll be here year-round. although you might not see them because they might be in slightly different life stages. So something like a dung beetle, we see them a lot more now in the summer, but they're actually around year-round. We just don't see them the rest of the year because they're in their larval stages or in a bit of a hibernation. But species like the African monarch butterfly absolutely do migrate, and it's one of the most beautiful migrations to see in the world. There's just hundreds of thousands of butterflies everywhere you look as they're moving. Normally when we think of migrations, though, people would think of bigger things. You know, some of the bird species, elephants used to migrate, things like the wildebeest migration in East Africa. I would love to see that. I have never been. That's definitely on my bucket list. I'd actually love to see the African monarch migration as well. The footage that I've seen is unbelievable. But in terms of actually seeing it, I have not been so lucky. But it's on the bucket list. My bucket list is very long. Very, very, very long. Oh, wow, it is beautiful here. Rusty. Always gives us a little bit of a challenge. Sienna, so the African monarch migration, they actually can live fairly long, but it's very interesting because they don't have to be born there and go back to the same spot. When they hatch, basically they already know where to go, which is in itself a mind-blowing concept. And they'll use many different things. They can use magnetic fields, they can use polarized light, all sorts of things to find where they're going. But sometimes it'll take one single migration and then a butterfly will die, and sometimes they can actually live longer. So it just depends. But it's just this natural, ingrained instinct that they know where they're going, and every year that's where they go and they come back. And it's one of those things that I think as much as you can study it, it's still gonna keep boggling your mind. So it looks like things are quite quiet here at Twin Dams. There is, I can see one impala in the distance hiding. But it is nice and peaceful. You can see the surface of the water is so smooth, you can actually see the reflection. And there's just the tiniest hint of a breeze. I don't know if the hippo is still here. That was here yesterday. I haven't seen any nostrils pop up yet. There's definitely a thickney favorite spot, this one. Water thickneys, Egyptian geese, blacksmith lapwings. They're usually always around here. I can actually see a glimpse of a grey duiker, but I don't think it's going to stick around very long. It's actually walking next to one of the little... Oh, I'm hoping it doesn't run. It's walking next to the little pond. This is where Jonty mud wallowed. And it's on the little track that goes past there. Actually very unusual to get such a clear view of a grey duiker. Normally they're so in the thickets that you struggle to get a picture of the whole body. Thinking very carefully before it moves. Yep, they disappear within seconds, those ones. They always kind of give you a bit of a workout because you'll see them and by the time you get to them they're gone. But they're actually quite an unusual animal. I really enjoy a duiker. They are obviously quite solitary, so they'll often be, on their own, moving through the thickets. But they are quite an unusual one. You'll find them eating little fruits and obviously a lot of plants. But I've actually seen duikers nibble on carcasses before, and it's not unheard of. They do tend to nibble on the occasional carcass. Quite strange for an antelope species to do that. But I mean, that being said, hippos have also been known to nibble on carcasses. A lot of animals will do it. Even if it's not purely to get food, sometimes it's just to gather information, or a bit of a strange concept. Nova, it was giving us a very good camera pose, quite unusually for a duiker, I must be honest. I'm not used to them being so out in the open, exposed. Normally they move away so quickly that we don't even get a chance to frame them up. So I was quite impressed that it was not only standing still for so long, but out in the open like that on a clear road where you could see the whole body for so long is quite unusual. A nice little treat for the morning in amongst the elephants and the birding. But it is looking quite quiet here, so I think what I actually want to do, I want to head towards, I'm right next to Gowrie, Main, the southern boundary. I want to go from here and I need to decide either head towards Treehouse Dam or head towards Cheetah Cut Line and see what we've got. I'm either going east or west and I need to decide which way I'm going. I would almost think that Cheetah Cut Line might be a better bet this morning, being a bigger boundary road. There were, I believe, tracks of a line coming in somewhere along Triple M, which is the western boundary, more towards Treehouse Dam. One single line, and it's the same spot where I found the tracks yesterday. So he's clearly been moving in that area in and out quite a bit. And it was quite late last night, I believe, that there was a male line that was moving through the area. So I'm not sure which male line it is. I do know that it is the same space that we found the tracks yesterday, so very possibly he's just moving between something like water and a food source, or if he's up and down on the same track, maybe a bit of territorial marking, so it might be worthwhile having a check for any other fresh tracks there later on as well. It's such a beautiful day. We have got some clouds building up, but we'll see what happens. Lily pad, yes, I was quite surprised when I flew in at how green it is. It changed very quickly. I know when I was here in the last stint, over the 2 weeks I could see the bush changing around me because that's when we started getting a lot more consistent rain. But just this gap of 2 weeks when I was away and came back, it's changed so much that it's actually quite, it's almost a bit of a shock when you start driving and it's so thick and so green. It is definitely one of the most beautiful times to be out here, and there's so many different shades of green. But to me, what makes it is there's so much water always, and that it just makes everything, everything so filled with life. And being an entomologist, I think I really just enjoy how much the insects and the birds come out when there's a lot more water. And so there are some impalas coming down to drink. It looks like just a bachelor herd, maybe our resident herd from around here. I think I'm going to leave them to carry on drinking, and I'm going to head towards the boundary and make my decision, east or west, east or west.
We have found fresh tracks, and it's the freshest tracks I have seen in days, if not a week. So we're just going to make a sort of exploration of the area, see what we can see along the way. They're most likely from last night, so they're not completely piping hot, smoking fresh tracks with the steam coming off them, but they are fresh.
Can you go off the road?
If Siri live or not, I'm really not entirely sure. On that note, I am going to just give you a view in front of us. Isn't it so beautiful? What a lovely morning it's turned out to be.
Welcome back to Eco Training Providence. So we have an open plains area again, which we refer to as zebra plains, and we were coming to look for some general game species over here. However, after wild dogs came through here yesterday and being around for a few days, it seems to have upsetted a number of animals. And the only animal that we did find that did come back is a territorial wildebeest who has got his territory over here. He quickly popped in for a drink over here, and then he moved off onto this overhanging branch and just directly to the left-hand side of this little pan. And what he was busy doing, he was rubbing the gland directly underneath his eye. And there's a secretion that he uses for actually marking his territory. It's not the only way that they use for marking territories, but proudly standing upright and patrolling the area. That's another method of how they mark their territories. And then also what you'll notice is that they will form large dung middens inside their territories, and they often will roll into their own dung so that scent can impregnate on their coat. And that apparently is also some form of a dominance signal, which we find. When it does come to wildebeest, we find that they do come forth in a number of different social organizations, which includes both breeding herds, which is female and their offspring, and then we also have territorial males, and then lastly also bachelors that move around in groups. When it does come to the bachelors, they tend to be non-territorial, and so is the breeding herds. But when it does come to the breeding season, we'll start noticing that these wildebeest males will try and herd the females in onto their territories and prevent them from leaving. We also quite often will see when it does come to males or neighboring males meeting on territorial boundaries, that's quite often they will run up and down, turn around in circles and cart up and down and display a number of different strange behaviors, which has also actually given them the nickname of clown of the bushveld. Good morning, Zoe, and welcome to the show. Yes, only males that are able to obtain territories will mark their territories, as males that don't have territories won't be marking. What I also find interesting is that when we compare blue wildebeest with the blue wildebeest that we find in East Africa, where they do migrate, however, ours also used to migrate before there was a large number of fences, as well as man-made dams and pans erected through conservation areas, is that the ones in East Africa actually have mobile territories, while ours have static territories, which is managed all year round. And what we also do find is that those that do move about, that doesn't have territories, seldom move more than some 20 kilometers away from the main area where they normally are found in. We also do find with wildebeest is that they sometimes will actually respond to distant lightning as well as rain, as they know that there will often be a fresh flush of grasses coming out in those areas. I was really hoping that he was going to come back out from behind the vegetation, but it seems that he's now moved into the thicker bush. Good morning, James Richard, and welcome to the show. Yes, we do often see leopards. However, they tend to be more night active, and there was one actually seen at Leopard Dam, at Ndlovu Dam last night, having a quick drink. It also seems that one of the females also have cubs and is busy denning, so hopefully we'll be able to see these coming out soon as well. Good Good morning, Scott, and welcome to the show. And with regards to your question, does a wildebeest female choose of who they want to mate with? Not really, but they're definitely not going to mate with males that don't have territories. And it's merely by having a territory, it means that you're a male that are of a specific age, has been around for long enough, and is actually worthwhile actually investing energy with in terms of mating, and that you are going to produce some form of genetic material which is of value to the contribution to the success of the species. Otherwise, females don't waste time with mating with sub-adults and inexperienced young males. Well, we're going to move off and go and see what else we can go and find, and let's go and see what Tess is up to.
Okay, so I have made my decision. I'm going east. It took me a while to decide, but I figured I might as well see if there's anything that's come in towards Cheetah Cutline. It might also be worthwhile checking Chitwa Dam just to see if there is any update around there. So this is probably the best bet if you're wanting to find Langa, Kuchava, Marips, Tundi. And it's always productive on this side, so it's always worthwhile having a look. Whether it's an elephant or some really cool insects, it's a great area for everything. So I'm just bumbling along Gowrie Main at the moment, heading straight east pretty much. And then we will see what Chitwa has in store for us. Sorry, FC, I'm going to ask you to repeat that one. I broke up my comms. I know there was a question. Rachel, so you've got a pretty even chance of finding animals almost anywhere, but in summertime it becomes a lot more difficult. So winter, the game viewing is a lot easier no matter where you are, because there's less water, there's less brush, so you'd be able to see further, and at the same time animals are having to travel to find water. In the summer, animal bones, is that the question? You think so, Darby? Animal bones. Okay, sorry, FC, our comms are a little broken at the moment. So animal bones. Okay, there we go. Confirmation of animal bones. Alright, why don't we get more animal bones? Apologies, everybody. So we don't find as many animal bones now because the brush is very thick, but also because animals will scatter them and hyenas will eat them. So if you take a walk, that's your best bet of finding animal bones in general. And because the hyenas will eat a lot of the smaller bones, you might not find as many of the smaller ones. I just want to spend a quick minute at this little pan just listening, but just to keep answering your question. So hyenas will eat a lot of the smaller bones, so you often just find things like skulls and very big bones from things like maybe rhinos and elephants, which are a lot bigger than something like an impala. With an impala there won't be very much left of a carcass other than maybe the skull, and if it's a male, the horns. But they get scattered by a lot of animals. A lot of the scavengers will move them around. And then at the same time, you know, there could be bones here right now, and you can see the grass is very long. We wouldn't really see it unless it's a massive bone. So the best way to find bones is either if it's on the road or on a game path in the summer, Or if you're just taking a walk, then you'll find a lot more bones. But pretty much everything out here gets recycled. It all goes back into nutrients for insects, for scavengers, or back into the soil. So only the hardest bones will actually stick around for a very, very, very long time. Right, so I can hear a lot of birds. I can't hear much else here. This is quite a productive little pan. There's often hyenas here. I know Maribs likes to hang around here as well. Sounds like there's some wren warblers around as well. Kappa, yes, actually they are building their nests. Actually at Twin Dams there's a beautiful array of weavers' nests. I'll try and head back there for you just now and show you, but it's overhanging on the little, well, it used to be a wallow, now it's a pan. That same wallow that we were sitting at with the grey duiker. There's an overhanging tree and there are quite a few weavers' nests in there, and at the moment, even at Vuyatela Dam in the drainage line just south of the dam wall, there are a lot of weavers that are building nests, and it's that time now where the grass is nice and green, so it's nice and bendable. It's durable as well, so it's not just going to break like dry grass does. It's the perfect time for them to be building their nests. So they'll go and break off a long strand of grass, then come back and weave it into their basket, and then when it dries, that's when you'll see the brown nests. But it's a constant process, because one weaver can build 4 or 5 nests if it wants to. And if a female's not happy, it'll either destroy the nest or abandon it and start all over again somewhere else. So it's a constant process. When I was here last time, actually, when I left 2 weeks ago, there were quite a few weavers that are already building nests. And it's just getting more and more at this point. It's a very fascinating process to watch, and each species is slightly different in the way they build their nests. So it's always quite fascinating. Okay, so there's nothing much here. I think I'm going to carry on down towards Chitwa Dam. See if there's anything there. But the natural pans are created through a variety of different means. Sometimes it's just a natural erosion site where, with weather, it erodes and creates a little pool where there might be a bit of a natural dip and then a raise again. But a lot of the time, the pans that we're seeing now are actually created when there's a little pool of water that's collected, and then things like warthogs might start it, or things like elephants, where they come and mud wallow. And so as they're rubbing their body, it kind of hollows the ground a bit, and then over time it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because then other animals will start using it as well. Buffaloes, rhinos, elephants, warthogs, they all start wallowing in the same areas, and then it just gets deeper and deeper as the soil is compacted, and then it'll collect more and more water. So it's just an ongoing process of the pans getting bigger. When it dries up, it just becomes a dry, well, first a mud wallow and then just a dry wallow where there's just cracked mud caked along the sides. So that's probably the most common cause. But you can definitely get it, if you just got a little natural dip anywhere and there's a lot of water moving through, if there's a lot of natural rain, then the water will start collecting and it might just get bigger and bigger on its own. Usually though, it's the animals that shape the environment. Things like elephants are great shapers of the environment. And so it can be a very interesting process to see how it changes over time. That is a massive hyena track. Okay, so while I carry on down to the dam and see what else we can find, let's head over to Lauren.
We've just stopped for a moment. I've been driving a lot, looking at tracks, trying to figure out what's happening. And Owen and I just noticed this tree moving from side to side. Like the trees are coming alive. I'm assuming there is an elephant there. But I can't actually see. So we just thought we'd stop, look for some birds, do some birding, and listen. Definitely a leopard on Juma. It's the area that I've been suspicious about for a while with Kalamba. So I think it's worth listening. And it's not necessarily the leopard you'll hear. I'm not necessarily listening for, but I am listening for alarm calls. Someone that spots a leopard. When a has to be elephant. My goodness, can you reveal yourself, please? The trees are coming alive. The Hidden Life of Trees. Did any of you read that book? I mention it a lot. I just wondered if anyone had actually read it. It's so fantastic. I think we've just been looking at the ecosystem and the being of trees incorrectly, actually. And one thing I love about this job is I am always willing to be wrong. I'm always willing to learn. And I think what I love is when something challenges my perception. The way I've been looking at things, when something makes me think, oh, actually, I've been viewing this completely wrong. I love that. And The Hidden Life of Trees, or The Secret, no, The Hidden Life of Trees, that's correct, by Peter Wolleben. I think he's German, which means I am probably pronouncing that name entirely wrong, but that's okay. It just turned everything on its head for me. And it's still sort of new science, new theories, but it just made me think, wow, I've been looking at trees entirely the wrong way. I've been looking at them as individual units. There is a marula, there is a tamboiti, there's a combritum, but actually it's a society. They're all working together. They're not working against each other. I remember being in primary school and hearing trees all compete for light and space. Each tree is competing. You're just ingrained in you from a young age to think they're all competing and they're not working together, and they are.
You want anything to come in? You want? Coffee, you want?
There are elephants here. It's not accessible for us to get them, I'm afraid, which is why we sort of stopped to see if they'll reveal themselves, but nothing else could shake the trees that way. Maybe buffaloes, but they don't break the branches. I can hear them. I can hear lots of branches breaking. Okay, we're going to sit here a little bit longer and just continue to listen. And the elephant appears. We have been waiting on this. We've seen the trees move, but not actually the animal that was making the trees. But here we go. System. So we are just going to sit and listen. I think that's some moving off now. We won't actually be able to give you any more visuals. We can't drive any further. It was such a wonderful sighting. The elephants have been and gone, I'm afraid. They've all moved up into the Mulwati and we can't drive there. I don't think there are any. I don't know if they'll come out. We might be able to loop round another way and pick them up. It'd be nice to see Ellie's. But today's going to be incredibly hot and I think that's a good day for pool parties later on. Everybody loves a pool party. I'm not sure we'll get any more views. I actually have no idea what Tessa is up to, so we're going to send you over to her.
So we've just arrived at Chitwa Dam. It definitely is proving to be a spectacular birding day. So there are some impalas and things around the edges. We've seen a glimpse of a waterbuck and there's some hippos around. But what actually caught our attention was this green-backed heron, which is poised. It is ready to strike on this little branch. It's actually a branch that's coming out of the water, so it's in the middle of the water. It's not like it's coming off of the bank. And you can see what it's doing is it's kind of keeping itself really still. It's moving its head a little bit. And then just like it did there and there again, it just quickly strikes its head into the water. And it's getting little tidbits of food from the water, whether it's tadpoles or frogs, maybe small fish or insects. It's having a very, very good morning in terms of its meal variety. So this used to be known as the striated heron. It's now the green-backed heron. And it doesn't look like it's missed at all since we've been here. Every strike it's swallowed something. You can see it's got quite striking markings. This is one of the more beautiful of the herons, especially the smaller ones. In this light in particular, you can see a lot of light and dark on its body, so it's got quite a lot of streaking. And then that very distinctive dark green to black cap that kind of comes above the eyes and down the back of the head. Layla, yes, there are quite a few birds that are herbivores. They're actually more likely to be something more specific, like, for example, a frugivore, which means they eat only fruits. So there are quite a lot of bird species that would only eat things like seeds and plants and fruits. Examples would be things like maybe an African green pigeon is a good example. They eat mostly fruits. So a lot of the pigeon and dove species would only eat seeds and fruits. A lot of the ground birds as well. So things like francolins and spurfowls, they would go mostly for seeds. But a lot of the time out here in particular, so if you go to different areas, the demographic or the makeup of the different bird species is different depending on the area. Here we would have a lot more, I wouldn't say predatory bird species, but definitely, eating a lot of variety. Because we have a lot more insects and things available here. If you go somewhere that has a lot more trees, a lot more fruits, then you would find a lot more frugivores. Things like mouse birds as well tend to feed on fruit. So it just depends what you're looking at. I think it's also, there's so many different, there's just been African green pigeons that have flown over, that's kind of funny. There's so many different types of birds that it's almost, you've got to separate them. Anna Marie, it is very stealthy. It's got its stalk on properly there. It is so still. And you can see the body only really moves if it's having to come all the way over to the right-hand side here. It's mainly just the head that's moving, so it's using its eyes. It's looking for movement in the water. And then as it finds something close to the surface, that's when it strikes. It's got very, very good balance. Oh. And especially where it is, it's kind of concentrating around a structure, which is very clever. Any structure in the water will have things like tadpoles and insects around it because it's safer than the open water. There's more cover for them. So for such a small bird, it's easy to prey on anything that would be around this branch in the water. A little bit of water weed as well. A bit of structure to base your hunting off of. They are very stealthy birds. Storks and herons in general are quite talented in terms of stalking and hunting. I think a green-backed heron is probably one of my favorite heron species. The most common that we would see or that you would notice would be some of the larger ones, something like a grey heron. But the smaller ones are always here, and they're actually very interesting to watch because they can maneuver into smaller places. And they actually tend to strike a lot more frequently than something like a grey heron, which is taller and would kind of just walk along the banks of a dam or a waterhole. Giving us a bit of a challenge. I can see a leg and occasionally a beak. So there is obviously always quite a lot of life around the dams. At the moment, the main things that we can see, there's some Egyptian geese, the usual water thickneys, blacksmith lapwings. I've seen one or two crowned lapwings as well, and then the hippos. But even the hippos are quite quiet this morning, just kind of seeing the tops of their heads. Haven't heard any commotion from them. I was hoping we would see a crocodile here. I haven't seen a crocodile in a while. And this is normally where they are if they're not on that middle island, where you can see the top of the hippo. It's quite a beautiful morning out here. The clouds are building up pretty quickly, but you can see there is no breeze. The surface of the water is very smooth. And there are certainly a lot of birds around. So I haven't been lucky enough to see the pod of hippos that has the babies. I think they're hiding further back in the dam this morning. I'm used to them being quite close to the front, but I think they're all hiding out a little bit. I'd love to see, when I was here last time, there was a tiny little newborn hippo calf. I'd love to see what's become of that calf, because they grow very, very quickly. Everything out here grows pretty quickly once it's born. But it seems like everybody's on a bit of a go-slow in terms of the mammals. And it's also heating up very quickly, so I think that's part of the reason why. I love that little flick of the ear that a hippo does when it comes out of the water, just kind of clearing the chamber. Alright, so I think what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to head on from Chitwa Dam, see what else we can find while we're around here. This is where Lunga was last night, very, very close to the dam. So I'm going to have a look around and see if there's any fresh tracks or anything. And we'll just carry on with our bumble from there. Hopefully we find something wonderful for you.
Welcome back to Pridelands. At the moment we are at Ndlovu Dam looking at a herd of impala that came down to come and drink. Some of the individuals are also grazing. It's also interesting to still see that there's some of the lambs which is also still suckling on the mother. Other than that, it's pretty quiet so far this morning since we've already, after we started, we have a good start having both lion as well as hyena. Let's sit and wait and see what comes in, and then let's listen to all the different sounds in the background.
The best find of today. Issue? Doesn't look rather comfortable, but we see you. Isn't this gorgeous? Are you just sunbathing, chilling, living the chill life? This is obviously a rock monitor. We definitely see the water monitors or the Nile monitors a lot more than we see the rock. But you can see this is where they hide. In little holes and crevices and trees. And then they just pop themselves out to sunbathe. You look very relaxed up there. I'm rather jealous. So stunning. Now, they are actually incredible swimmers, the rocks. They're just not as... Sorry, this is a beautiful shot of the Ellie. We're also surrounded by Ellies. I don't know. Oh, this is also magical. I don't know what to talk about. These are the Ellies that popped up from the drainage. I thought I would be able to get them. Hello. Buffalo thorn delish. The thorns and the hooks clearly don't put you off. The leaves are very nutritious. Even for humans. Sometimes I snack on them in camp when I'm walking by. Yeah, I can see why you like them. I tried to fry them up one time There's a delicacy in the Maldives called telefai, and they use leaves of a specific tree, very small leaves, and they dry them out in the sun, then they fry them in garlic, lemon, and salt and oil, and they're the best things in the world. I introduced Davi to them, and okay, someone's taking a tantrum. Anyway, I thought maybe I could do the same with buffalo thorn, but it didn't work. Everybody around the table, James Henry pretended to like them, but no, I know they were lying. Might get a 2-shot here, Odie. If the Ellie doesn't scare away our little lizard. There you go, there's a lizard. Look at the claws. Look at the two of them together. It's coming very close to the car now to get the vegetation. Oh, they're all coming. They're all here, Owen. You see the youngsters? Hazel, you're saying you love how chilled that rock monitor is. I know. Probably not got enough energy to do anything else, but so chilled. Hello, guys. Are you going to go to Gary Dam for a drink? I really think you should. You know, these elephants actually might scare away the monitor. They're right underneath them now. What a cool sighting. That was a bit dramatic. Very dramatic. No, not at all, Susan. Not at all. They have no need to. It's not anything that elephants need to pay attention to. Owen, 12 o'clock. Hello. Got an itchy leg. Beautiful girl. I can see you having a sniff of us. You're not very subtle, but that's okay. I hope I don't smell bad. But Susan, not at all. He's watching them. But they don't have to bother with his presence at all. They're all coming here. There's obviously some delicious grass. Underneath this quarry. Are you smelling us and you think that we can't see you because we can? Look at those nostrils, that's incredible. They're huge. Okay, that was just a chance to come and smell us. It was fake, pretending I'm going to eat. I'm going to hide behind this quarry. They won't see me, and I'm going to smell them. We've got more coming on. We've got a nice calf and mother in front. 12 o'clock. Got some more coming. A young boy approaching from the right. Here we go, here we go. Hello, boy. Marianne, you're saying... Did you get that, Owen? What sweet elephants. Very sweet. This is actually one of the nicest elephant sightings I've actually had in a while. They're just so relaxed. Been in the drainage, eating all the delicious food. Our monitor lizard's fallen asleep. We'll show you him in just a moment because the elephants are going to disappear. This is pretty special. And we spotted this herd solely based on vegetation moving. We didn't actually see an elephant for a while. We just saw the trees going boing, 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 boing. course, the best views of the Ellie's gone. But Mr. Rock Monitor is still here. Did you enjoy that? I did. It's so cute, you know, you wouldn't think that reptiles would be cute, but they absolutely are. What an absolutely wonderful sighting that was.
I'm taking a little bumble. I've come through some of the drainage lines from Chitwa Dam. I'm just kind of having a look around to see if there is anything unusual. We've seen quite a few hyena tracks, a few elephant tracks, but it seems like the bigger animals are on a little bit of a strike today. But it's weird, the weather's changing again. We're now almost completely overcast. There's no more direct sun, which is very odd considering we started the morning so clear and so hot. We're just kind of doing a bit of a loop. I'm actually just about to arrive back at the pan where I stopped for a little bit earlier. And in fact, this is the last place that I saw my reaps. But we did go past where Langa was. No more sign of her. There wasn't much left of the carcass last night, so it's not unexpected that she's not there. Kind of just taking a little bit of a look around. A bumble. I still haven't seen any bee eaters today. Thinking of birds and the bumble, we've been seeing a lot of bird species. I've seen quite a few swallows. But I haven't seen very many bee eaters or anything like that. It's quite strange for this time of the year. So I'm now back on Gowrie Main. I'm going a little bit further west. I know Lauren is working in this eastern side, so I'm going to go and check the western side. Because now this morning. Seems like majority of the tracks this morning are either hyena or elephant on the roads. Just having a look at it now. There's a lot of impala tracks, but that is quite expected. Let's see what happens. So it does look like there's been a small cat that's been walking along Gowrie Main. So I'm headed back west now from Chitwa, and it's very, very small track, so about the size of a 5 rand coin, something small like a serval. And it looks like it was sometime during the night because there's dove tracks over the serval tracks or over the cat tracks, and so that means that it was definitely during the night because there have been birds walking up and down the roads this morning. There wasn't an awful lot happening at Chitwa Dam in terms of larger animals. There was a great variety of bird life though, so we did enjoy quite a few bird sightings. And now we're actually just going to head west and see if we can find anything else along Gowrie Main, because neither Lauren or myself has checked that stretch of Gowrie Main and the western side this morning. I know Lauren's working here in the east. So we're going to see what happens. I was just about to start putting on sunblock, and then the weather did a 180. But like in terms of size, I don't know if you're talking about height or weight, but yes, there definitely are animals approximately the size of a human. For example, if you were to stand next to a white rhino, it would be about as tall as a tall man, averaging about 1.8 meters or so. So that's about the same height as a human, but a lot heavier, about 3.5 tons. So definitely quite a lot heavier, but height-wise very similar to a human. Also, if you look at something like a kudu, if you were to stand next to a kudu, they're also about the height of a human at head height, taller human. If you're looking at weight though, and again this can vary so much human to human, but if you're looking at an average weight of anywhere between say 60 and 100 kilograms, there's quite a lot of animals that are the same weight as a human. So even in the Eastern Cape, a big leopard will be up to 90 kilograms, which is very heavy. It's pretty big. So there's a lot of different animals that would weigh very similar. A nyala, for example, male and female nyalas are quite different in weight, but very similar to human weight. So it just depends if you're looking at height or weight in terms of comparing to humans. I just want to have a listen here at the top of this drainage line. There are some impalas down there, but they're not looking overly relaxed, and neither was that bird call. So I do want to have a little listen. This is the drainage line that comes next to Twin Dams, the Mulawati. So it's always a good drainage line to be checking. Oh, I don't hear anything else now, other than birds having a bit of a fight in the grass. Swainson's spur fowls. Yeah, there's a lot more bird activity this morning. Okay, I'm going to head on down into the dip. I'm hoping I don't lose signal, but before I do, you can actually see, have a look at those clouds up at the top. Look how that weather's changed. This is what I was saying when I said the weather's done a complete 180. It's still hot, but all of a sudden there's a massive cloud bank building again. So summer storms coming in very possibly this afternoon. All right, I'm going to keep going. Let's head back over to JP on his walk, see what he's up to.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment, we're still at Ndlovu Dam and we still fly impala. The reason why we stayed is there was a number of other general game species that also came in for a drink, and there's pretty much good birding that's going on at the moment. One of the birds that we did hear in the background is a monotonous lark, which is also a first for me for Pridelands. If we do go back to our impalas on the other side, you'll see some of them are actually still busy grazing and browsing, while the remainder of the group is all busy ruminating. If you notice closely, you'll actually see how they're grinding the jaws from left to right and then from right to left. So for those of you that are not familiar what rumination is, it's simply where a four-chambered stomached animal will regurgitate its food once the first stomach chamber has been filled up. And this enables them that they can feed in the coolest parts of the day, as well as with the first part of their first stomach chamber can be filled up with food, and they can remove themselves either into shade or move away from a potential threat. When it does come to rumination, it's actually a very effective method of digesting your food, which enables a far greater absorption of nutrients and minerals when it comes to the digestion process. Good morning, Momo. I've never seen an impala mud wallow, so no, they tend to actually use a different way of cleaning themselves. And if we actually come to the group here that's slightly more to the left, you'll actually see that they are grooming themselves with their mouth. And what they have is teeth that's actually loose in the sockets, which assist with removing the parasites on its coats. And sometimes you also will notice that there's individuals that will be grooming one another in those hard to reach little places. And then for those areas which you can't reach, there's always oxpeckers which will come and assist with removing parasites. For them to regulate their body temperature, they simply just move in and out of the sun into either a shaded spot or in the direct sunlight when it does become too warm or too cool for their liking. there's any other viewers that has questions, you're more than welcome to ask. We'll gladly answer them for you. And questions always make it so much easier for us, especially when there's not a lot going on. When it comes to impalas and their social structures, we actually find that they're one of the most dynamic of all the social structures out here. In some parts of the year, we find that they all form mixed groups of both males and females. However, at this time of the year, you'll start noticing that the females start splitting off from the males, and the males start forming smaller little bachelor herds, and some individual males have already started setting up little territories, but these are only temporary. While we watch our impalas and see what else comes to come and have a drink, let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
I am just trying to communicate.
I'm on Gary Lane heading west from Twin Labs.
Copy. We are on our way to Biffleshoek Cut Line to try and catch those lions.
Good luck.
The radios are being a little bit temperamental. Apparently there are lions crossing into Juma, and we're at this side. We're almost on Biffleshoek Cut Line. I know it's a race against time now. I don't know which lions. I'm going to guess Chalamartis, but I have not seen lions, as you know, in a very long time. But I am just going to have to put my foot down. Time is of the essence, so hold on, Odie. I've stolen Michelle's radio. I really hope we get Wendy's radio soon. This is one of the bumpiest parts of the reserve coming up. It's so unpleasant that I actually avoid this road at all costs, but it's going to take us onto the cut line the quickest. It's funny, these lines have been called in crossing from Sydney's Dam, and where did we leave the buffalo last night? Sydney's Dam. You survived that, Odie? Alrighty, at least we're on the cut line now. We should make it. It's a tricky signal area, but it worked last night, so I'm gonna hope that it works this morning. Up a little bit on the cut lines. I wouldn't necessarily drive like this through the reserve, but it's so open, you can really see what's ahead and what's at the side. Deborah, I think that was. You're saying any lions sound good to you. I know, Rowan had the Inkahumas the other day, but really, there's not been much lion activity around. We've got a bit to go. We've got to really put our foot down across the cut line, but apparently they are there in Gala. Also, cut line is very productive. It's not, I don't enjoy driving it, but it's productive. A roller racing us. Good morning. Okay, I do realize that we're racing against time, so I'm going to put my foot down and hopefully get these lions.
back to Pridelands. At the moment, we're still watching our herd of impala and listening to a number of different bird calls. So some of the calls that we are hearing in the background is that of a monotonous lark, and then also a Cape turtle dove, and then a number of other species, which includes red-billed buffalo weaver, tawny-flanked prinia, and also some green woodupus. Many of our South African viewers might actually be very familiar with green woodupus, as they also often are encountered within gardens. And we always find them in groups, and they're always incredibly noisy. And if you wondered why they're always so noisy, the reason for it is simple. They actually maintain group contact in the same way, share information about resources such as food, as well as potential threats that might be in the area. If you give these birds a closer look, and you'll actually all notice that the males and females actually have different length bills. And the reason why that is that the females and males don't directly compete with one another, and therefore can actually focus on defending a smaller territory, which is instead of focusing on a larger territory, which would cost them more energy. We're going to be quiet from here and let you listen to the different sounds. And our monotonous lark has just started calling again in the background.
So we have found a very cheeky young elephant along Gari Main. It's actually just on the fire break. And it seems to be following the rest of the herd. They're all spread out, eating at the bush willows, it seems. And this one was definitely giving us a little bit of attitude when we arrived. Seems to have relaxed a bit again. It is quite a youngster. Very small tusks, very small body size. Just a few years old. And now turning its back on us so it can feed. You kind of hear a bit of the breaking of branches there. Moving off towards the fire break. Right, let me see if I can catch up. So the herd is pretty spread out at the moment. There are some on the other side of the cut line, some on this side, on the Juma side. So it's definitely moving around a lot. We're fairly close to Twin Dam, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are heading that way slowly. Oh, that should be a fine, darling. There we go. Rusty's on it. Rusty's on it. Oh, I can smell a raisin bush. Beautiful. It's a very pleasant smell. It smells a bit like chocolate. It's quite lovely. There's actually a lot of foxgloves along here too. It's a beautiful flower. Megan, yes, there are a lot of elephants today. It seems to be an elephant kind of day. They are proving quite difficult to film though. They've chosen some nice thick areas, very long grass. The grass is taller than this baby elephant. And there are a few scattered throughout here. It's not the best viewing, but at least we're spending time with elephants. And you can see this little one is moving from bush to bush so that it's a bit more in the shade. The sun has broken through the clouds again and it heats up so quickly There is one just a little bit further back that you can see there, just kind of movement through the brush. And it seems like the whole herd is slowly moving in the direction of Twin Dams going east. So I've only seen one adult, and it seems to be on the other side of the fire break. And the youngsters seem to be hanging around here, trying their best to stay out of the camera view. So while we sit here and try and get a slightly better view, let's head over to Lauren and see what she's got.
Hyenas everywhere with all sorts of parts of a carcass in their mouth. I've seen 3 so far. And this one's walking off into Juma. I'm not sure where it is, everyone. If you can figure it out for me, please do let me know. Kai Cow ran right in front of us. There's another one over there. I wonder if the whole Juma clan's here. There's a carcass. Apparently there's a buffalo. Can you believe it? We saw the buffalo here last night. The lions have followed the buff and they made a kill. But apparently it was late in the night. It's just a tricky signal area. I will need my director to keep me updated on our signal if it does drop. But we're going to swivel round, try and see if we can get the lions. We've seen them. They're on Sydney's Dam wall. But we just wanted to show you these hyenas first. I don't entirely know where the carcass is, but we'll find out. You ready, Odie? Any hyena IDs that you got there, please let me know. I can't ID from this distance. I'm getting old. My eyesight's not so great. You're coming towards us. If you come towards us, I'll be able to figure out who you are. Look at that. Is it Kai Cow? Happy hyenas, let me tell you. That's why the den's not active. I think it's Kai Cow. Vulture overhead. Scavengers have arrived. Okay, I'm gonna go back, Odie. I love it when the skies are filled with vultures. I love it. Okay, hyenas are very active here, but let's just go up a little bit. Now, this is Gowrie Gate. This is how we enter the Sabi Sands, sorry. There are different ways to get into Sabi Sands, but if you want to come to the northern sector, this is where you come in and you do your fingerprint, you get scanned, and all sorts of assessing of the vehicle. More so on your way out. They have sniffer dogs, really, really, really strict, and it's for rhino products or animal products. Rhino, I'm not really sniffy from myself, but it's not the most aesthetic area to look at. But apparently the lions are here.
Okay, so we've actually left the elephants, and I think I'm going to go back onto Kari Main so we don't have to drive through a tree. And they've moved off into quite a thick area, so I didn't want to follow and keep off-roading behind them. It is very thick at the moment and they look like they're looking for some shade, so I will leave them to it and rather go and check towards Treehouse Dam now that it's heating up. Very nice old lion tracks here. Lovely. So definitely the Pride moved along here at some point. We're not far from the junction of Gowrie Main and Triple M where those lion tracks were last night. The same ones I found yesterday. There was a male walking through there again on the same section. So I think they've been up and down quite a bit. Alright, let's see what we can find towards Treehouse Dam. So I'm hoping now that it is getting warmer, there are going to be more animals moving towards water. Obviously in summer it becomes a lot more difficult because not only is the bush thicker, but there's a lot of these little mud wallows that have now filled up into pans. And so that can be a little bit of a challenge because you never know where the animals are going to be finding their water. Something like a leopard would be more than happy to get water from a mud wallow or a little tortoise or a little pan as opposed to going to a dam itself. There we go. Oh, the sun is quite harsh at the moment. I'm so sorry to interrupt your morning, tortoise. Oh, and a lot of ants. Wow, a lot of ants around the tortoise. There's actually a few that look like they're crawling on the tortoise. Right, so it's actually moving into the little middle island at the moment. I think it's actually possibly on its way towards this little water hole. And it is actually quite a common thing that you'll see tortoises moving much more frequently if it's about to rain or if there's any rain coming. With the amount of hot days we've had without rain, it would make sense that there is a storm building. Now you can just kind of see the bum end of the tortoise. It's not the biggest tortoise I've seen. Oh, there, it's starting to move again. Every now and then all you can see of the tortoise is the grass moving in the middle of the road. So it looks like it's a hinged tortoise. It doesn't look like a leopard tortoise. It's a bit too flat. They're actually not as common as a leopard tortoise, but we do see them quite a bit here. There we go, starting to move. You can see the legs. Right, so I just want to wait until it's in the center before I drive because I don't want to risk driving over it. Oh no, coming back out. Hello. Okay, so while we wait for this little one to move out of the road, let's head back over to Lauren for some action.
Amazing action here, amazing. Hyenas running everywhere, white-backed vultures being numerous and frantic as always, hissing. Hooded vultures staying on the outskirts. This is where they killed the buffalo. Can you believe it? We've always tended to avoid Sydney's dam because of the signal issues. This area is just, as long as I keep my vehicle still, we can make it work. But otherwise, because of all the issues, we don't tend to traverse this area too much. Look at it. Haven't had action like this in ages. I love vulture sightings. This must be when the carcass was. They're tearing, they're crunching, they're pulling. I love vultures. They get very aggressive with one another as well. The white-backed are the most common and the most numerous, especially at a kill site. Can you hear them? In comes the hoodie, in comes the hoodie, incoming. Whoa, what a landing. The hoodie waits until all the white backs are gone and comes in. Look at that. Hoodie are the smallest, that's why. The lions are on Sydney's wall, so we will try and give you a view, but naturally it's not our property. We don't traverse Buffelshoek anymore. Very sad. Those were some of my happiest days with WildEarth, traversing Buffelshoek. There are some happy hyenas running around, I'll tell you. I actually mentioned this the other day on live drive. It's been a while since I've had a sighting of frenzy at a carcass. I didn't catch that name, I'm afraid, but breakfast for everyone, even the lions, absolutely. And that's why these guys are so incredible. They just clean everything up, along with the hyenas. Clean it right up. Are there any Ngala on this side, or are they all at the dam?
The last one finished.
Okay.
Now by the dam. Can you go on?
Yeah, we don't go that side anymore, but we can view from the cut line. Is it the Talamatis? Okay. We never used to get signal here, so this is a winner. Thank you, guys. Okay, it is the Talamatis after all. They're on the dam wall, so we will turn around, but I just thought this was incredible to see the hyenas and the vultures and just the activity that happens. It's amazing. Did anyone get an idea on that other hyena? Kaika was one of them. Amazing. Okay, we'll try and maneuver to get the lions before the end of show. Let's do this, OD. Oh, look at that. All but nothing. My goodness. We're going to see some serious fat hyenas around. Okay, we're going to try and navigate signal and hopefully very shortly give you a view of the lions.
Okay, so I'm actually on a road called Savage's Track. I'm about to arrive at Treehouse Dam to see what might be happening there. We're doing a bit of a dam hop this morning now that it's heated up. And there are a lot of elephant tracks in the area. I know that there have been elephants around, so I'm always hoping that there's going to be elephants that come down to the dams now that it's heating up. We were actually just chatting about all of the hyena tracks because it seems like every road that we drive on has a lot of hyena tracks on. So the Juma clan is very active. I haven't seen any of the hyenas since I've been back, but I think I'm going to see what I can do, try and find some hyenas this afternoon. Really impressed by the amount of water in the dams. Just in the last 2 weeks they really have filled up quite a lot. Even Chitwa Dam is way fuller than I remember. But I can also see quite a few of the roads have started washing away. So it is quite interesting to notice the little changes as you go, being away for 2 weeks and then coming back. Hello, Treehouse Dam. Let's have a quick look and see. There are some Egyptian geese. Our resident blacksmith lapwings as well are around the edges. And a beautiful, peaceful morning here. It actually looks like they're just having a bit of a preening session. They're not really feeding at the moment, just sitting on the bank in the sun. So Treehouse Dam is at the moment a very good birding site, and you can see a pretty good weather indication as well. We finally got some blue skies again, but it's giving us a little bit of whiplash and some vultures circling. And I think they're taking advantage of the thermals as it's heating up. As soon as the sun comes out, it's heating up very, very quickly. And they look like they're just circling ever so slowly. They look like they are white-backed vultures from the size. And it's just a pair of them that's flying around slowly. So this is one of the signs that we would look for if we're looking for any sign of a carcass or anything like that. Vultures are always a pretty good indication, but there's only 2 of them, and I think they're just catching a thermal at the moment. Bit of a vent. As the ground heats up, it sends a spiral of heat up into the air and they catch onto it, and you can see they actually moved off pretty quickly. They're now going towards quarantine. So I think they were just taking advantage of the thermal and at the same time looking for some food. And the dams are always a good place to look because animals come down to drink, so predators are attracted as well, and so you often find kills close to drainage lines and water holes. But it is quite a hot day. It's heating up again very quickly now that the sun has broken through the clouds. And I wanted to just come past and check because there have been so many elephants this morning and see if there might be any signs of elephants coming down. But I don't hear any branches breaking around us. I can just hear the woodland kingfishers, a few other birds. And at the dam itself, it's just the resident pair of Egyptian geese, and it looks like the resident pair of blacksmith lapwings along the edges as well. And the usual array of bird life all around us. So it is definitely one of the challenges, especially now when it is so thick and lush out here and there is so much water. It's not quite the same as coming to a waterhole in winter where everything has to come down to drink. They've got to move quite far distances. At the moment, with all of the mud wallows and the pans around, animals are quite dispersed. And in fact, it's one of the biggest shapers of leopard distribution is water. So if you're in the summer months, you'll find that their territories might shrink a little bit. They don't have to move as far, and so their movements are much more limited. They seem much more secretive. Their behavior pretty much stays the same. They're still leopards. They still have the same instincts, but they'll change their movements a little bit in relation to water. It's very similar with lions as well. They don't need to move as far. But things like elephants still do prefer a big waterhole for drinking in particular. If they found a mud wallow, they might drink, but they prefer to use that for splashing as opposed to drinking. They want as clean water as possible. One lone impala, looking fairly alert. Actually hasn't moved since we got here. It's been standing there staring. And possibly looking out for any predators that might be coming down. On its own, it's feeling a little bit more nervous than if it was with the herd. So looking out for some of the cats. And speaking of, I think we should go over to Lauren, who has some cats of her own.
Sadly, this sighting is all but over now. Darkmane was here, everybody. He's there. He's just behind the dam wall. But we missed it. And it's a long distance visual. That's Sydney's dam, and it's just we've managed to find signal, not sure how, but they're all moving off now. Sadly, they were all lined up beautifully on the dam wall. And we might, they are moving south, but if they go flat in that sort of thicket there, we won't see them. But if they do pop back out again above us at Cutland, we will. Oh, Talamartis. And I'm sure you'll all be overjoyed. I'm sure it's dark mane. It's a huge male lion with a dark mane. But naturally, it's a very long distance visual. It's wonderful to see them all the same. It's wonderful to have them around. Hopefully they come even further into Juma this evening. One of the vehicles will follow up. Was that the last lioness?
Yeah. Yes. The medal pops up. Could be S.
Ah, there we go. We've got movement there. I do think they might be going flat. Let's try and go forward a little bit, Odie. We might, obviously we're running out of time, but we might see them pop out just as a sort of open area in this thicket here. You never know. We may as well try. I think the last time I had a sighting like this was with dark mane and a hippo at Inyala Dam on Buvusuk, with vultures and hyenas, lions.
Right, so I've just left Treehouse Dam. It is quite hot there, so we decided to get a bit of a breeze in our faces and just carry on down the road. We're headed towards a dip called Philemon's Dip, which is where I bumped into Mulwati stalking some elephants. And then from there headed towards Quarantine. See what might be up there in the shade of those big marula trees. Definitely a lot of elephant tracks around. I'm wondering if the elephants came past a little bit earlier. We will have to see. Maybe we'll bump into them here along the drainage line. Right, while I am headed that way to see what I can find, let's head back over to Lauren.
Sorry everyone, the signal is unstable. We do know that though. Look at this. We're just waiting here. We're going to edge slowly and slowly and slowly. The further we go, we're not getting signal. I thought the lines were possibly going to come out of the game path beside me, but naturally we've got activity here. Look at that. Amazing. I don't actually know who this is from this distance. I do think it's one of the males. Talamartis, why did you have to choose Sydney's Dam? It really is the only large water body in the western sector of the reserve. We don't have any on Juma. So if they are wandering through Juma, if they're cutting through from Arathusa or Simbambili, then it really is the only sort of
water body on the western sector. They, of course, don't know that it's not on Juma. Well, they tried. They are there. It's going to be a hot day, but hopefully when it does cool down in the afternoon, that may mean that they pop back out again. And we get to spend some time with them. But Darkmane was definitely there. Because I know many of you have been asking, Darkmane. Some people say, no, he's losing condition. He's been at Pungwe for a while. Well, he's here. And if he's here, then he's definitely had some buffalo. And if he's had some buffalo, then I'm sure he's fine. But sadly, we just can't make it work with signal. I'll see what I can do for the afternoon. I'll see if I can get some special access to view. But for now, this is all we got. I'm not complaining. It's still epic when you see vultures and hyenas. Nelsie? I'm not doing very good with the names today. I'm so happy that the Talamatis are back in town. Very, very happy. We didn't get the best views of them, but they're back. I don't know if they came from the west. I didn't check the western side of the reserve today. I stuck to the east. But clearly they got one of those buffs. They must have been behind those buffs last night. Must have came from the west. Because the buffalo were just crossing here as the show was closing. So I think they came from the west, but I really don't know. Fantastic stuff all around. Can get really aggressive between these guys. But what a drive. We now know where the Talamatis are. But hyenas, albeit not at the den. Vultures, elephants. I think Tessa also had elephants. Fresh tracks for a female leopard. They did go into an area that I've been suspicious about but can't access right now, which is unfortunate, but it's good news all the same. And blue skies. What more does anyone want? What a fantastic sunrise safari. And a big thank you to you all for being part of it. We couldn't do it without you. All of you jumping on board the back of Rusty, Wendy and Prideland's feet and joining us in a bumble through the bush. So please do join us this afternoon, everyone. We'll be out for Sunset Safari, and until then, have a great day.